so I saw this come in my newsfeed on, well, is it just the feed or whatever, on Facebook, and I had to leave a comment, and I just want you guys to know this is not to be mean. It just is, there are some things that happen, like Utah drivers just don't at all use their turn signal unless they're like going to the hospital or they have to merge and you're not letting them over the signal and just jump over. So I moved there in about 20, not in 20, well, 2001, I wouldn't say 2001, but 2001, I moved there and didn't have a car. And, I've read my journals and different things and just remember, like, the Lord has just brought to my memory, there are some of the nicest people I've met in my life there, and some of my happiest moments, I was there, but I didn't have a car, And even when I went back, like, just, there's a lot of good. I don't hate, not hating on Utahns, but when I went back for the third time's a charm, right? No, I did not stay because of the Utah drivers, but I also had my third surgery. My anxiety was just so much worse. My health was worse, and the elevation's not good. The inversions, I hated the inversions and all that stuff. But when I first came back, I was driving an Audi. I used Audi that I was able to get reduced down to 10 grand. And so I was paying $200 a month. Like, I wasn't a rich girl, but they were trying to drive me off the road. And I just lived in Southern California, and people were not doing that to me. And so when I came back the third time, I'm like, why is it so scary? Why is everyone says that they're bad drivers? Like, what is the difference? And it's the lack of turn signals. And so I go into that here. I did make a video about it, and I had just been bullied online, so I was just really, trying to be funny. And most of my followers are from Utah, so they didn't want to like that or like me, and I don't know. So I'm sorry if I've offended you guys. I mean, it's a different culture. Like in Oregon, if someone's standing there and taking too long, but you're in a rush and you need to get like that jug of milk, you will say, "Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, I just need to go grab this. Is that okay?" Like, you even ask. Like, they just don't say that or do that in Utah. It's just not the culture. They will just grab it, and if you're slow, they'll just kind of look at you like you're stupid. And so they're very sensitive to be saying they're bad at anything, because often they're very fast and very good. It's not that their driving is bad, but their choice to not use a turn signal is a very bad thing. It's not a good thing. Yeah, and I realized that's what the difference was. And asked this nice guy at FHE, I'm just like, so why don't you guys use your turn signals? And he just said, well, they won't let you over. They will not. We just have to surprise them. And I do remember hearing a lot when I first moved there and did not have a car. I had friends that were natives, and they were just saying, like, it's just changed in the last 20 years. So going back to 1980, I guess, a lot of Utah used to be farmland. And then you add in just the history, not mocking it, but I was just like, what? They're just so proud of their pioneer heritage. Like, most native Utahns are descendant of pioneers that have been abused. And their trust of, even up till, not that long, really, in the history of a state, pretty recent, outsiders were there to jail them or harm them, and they had been thrown from state. So it literally goes into your DNA. I think there's that. Distrust of people. So when I lived in Arizona, got an Arizona license plate, drove through, I felt a lot safer. But yeah, I had an experience that just sort of reminded me of the culture of Utah. I'd ran a year ago. I think it was probably like exactly a year ago. I had ran out of my medication and of Corliner for postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. I had not taken it that day because I was out of it. But I was so happy to have good insurance, and they did not charge. They filled it up and charged me nothing. I was so happy, and I'm like, I'm going to go to the store instead of just going straight home and taking it. I went to the grocery store. And mind you, I'm living in the South, and most people there are like honey, are you okay? You know, just very compassionate and polite. But a lot of people from Utah have moved there. And that's where a lot of my relatives are. And it was hard, to say the least. And I was just taking my time to pick out a donut. And this girl reaches over and grabs like a bunch of bagels in front of me right as I'm leaning to get the donut. I was like, whoa. I was just shocked. And she just said, you know, do you need help with something? Just really mean. Like, are you okay? Condescending and just glaring at me. And not a Southern accent. Granted, I did not have one, but I still, sometimes I do. Just because my family's Southern, both sides, just very Southern blooded. And I visited a lot and just had been there a year. And yeah, was, anyway, I just kind of looked at her and just realized no Southern accent, and probably from Utah. Like, they just aren't always the most patient people. Although some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life are from there. But the culture is like this, and they know it. And I just smiled at her and just said, she'd asked if I needed help condescendingly. And so I just pretended I didn't know she was being condescending and just smiled and said, no, thank you. I've gotten my donut, just here for my donut, and reached and got my donut and put it in the bag and just smiled. Waited for her to walk, and she just stood there staring at me. Sort of had a Utah accent, had the Utah hair. I'm like, I don't know. Sometimes I'd even go into like a gas station and take my time looking for something, and someone's like, ugh, mad. Like, ugh, why are you going slow? But now I didn't have any answer back then. And I could have told her, I'm not okay. Because she asked if I was okay as well. She didn't care though, Like, no, I did not take my Corliner in 24 hours, and I have a worse brain fog, and I'm slower, and I'm just slower grabbing a donut. I have a health problem. I could have said that. And when I first got diagnosed, I was saying it all the time because I was put on a bad medication that made me worse. But anyway, it is what it is. It is a culture thing. When I went through and had Arizona license plate, 90% better, but they still were not using turn signals. They were still tailgating, but not as bad. Like, the tailgating is really bad if you have an out-of-state license plate. And the people that sit at green lights, they sit at green lights and they go through red lights. And I saw a cop in Salt Lake City sitting there. It was like 5 cars went through a red light. Like, it was just normal. And I remember being in a mid-singles ward, and I just started to feel like, I didn't grow up in New York. I grew up in a small town in Oregon, but we were just sitting at this green light, and it was always happening. Always. When I left that ward, I went to this specific light. They would just sit there, and I just rolled down my window. I'm like, Utah, move. Come on. I just yelled out my window. I'm like, what's happening? Until I had a roommate tell me that she just sat. She was behind someone else that was sitting at a green light. I'm like, why are they sitting and turn green? She's like, well, they have to wait for all the people to go through the red light. And, and they're just used to that. It's just their culture. They're used to people. The lights aren't long enough, but they're also not going through the green. So that's a quirky and terrifying and horrifying thing as well. But I promise you, in Oregon and California, they use their turn signals. Yes, they were horrible, That's the other thing, living in Utah, and just Utahns. A lot of most of my followers are from Utah. And I complained about Utah drivers, and my views went down. I'm like, oh, well. Oh, well, but I know some of you are some of the, you will give the shirt off your back for someone, but using a turn signal, you just don't, your aunt didn't do it, your grandpa didn't do it, your dad didn't do it, so you're not going to do it. You just don't see the point. That's the difference. Just so you know, it is a Utah thing. Utahns have admitted it. It only happens when I'm in Utah. And the hovering thing, it's like, watch movies where anytime there's like a drive-by shooting in a movie, they hover. And Utahns do that all the time. And then there'll be like a foot in front of your car and just jump over. And then you're slamming your brakes, but you're like, there's no traffic. why did they do that? That didn't need to happen. And then we do get mad. And so I've been guilty of getting mad and just like, I was just like, I can't live here. So I left, but that's also what they want, because they're mad that some people came here, even though it grew their economy and it kind of blew up and bubbled, and now they were all going to the south. So, but Utahns, when you leave, just use your turn signal, please. And, stop at red lights, go when it's green. But yes, pay attention when it turns green. Someone could be flying through. There are, driving through California, I just felt a lot safer, even though I might hear on the news that there was a drive-by shooting in the exit I used to take, when I lived in Orange, California. Bad things happen. There are bad and good people everywhere, but I think Utahns just have a special major distrust that has sort of led to really bad driving, to be honest, because they don't trust that if they communicate with outsiders that they'll let them over. I don't know. Maybe just try it, Utahns. Have a good day.